First contact. Admiral Cathik stood motionless on the bridge of the Draconian warship, Eternal Dominion, his reptilian eyes fixed on the holographic display of Earth. The massive vessel's scaled hull reflected the distant light of the system star, creating an almost ethereal shimmer in the void of space. Behind him, the bridge crew worked in practiced silence, their clawed fingers dancing across quantum interface panels as they analyzed the third planet of this unremarkable solar system. Impossible, Cathik muttered, his long tail swaying slowly as he studied what their scientific database had classified as a Class 12 death world. How can anything survive in such conditions? Science Officer Civil approached with a data tablet, her scales a shade lighter than the Admiral's dark green. Admiral, our initial scans are perplexing. The planet experiences temperature variations of over 50 degrees in some regions. There are zones where water literally falls from the sky as frozen crystals, while others experience highly acidic precipitation. The atmospheric pressure would be crushing by our standards, and the oxygen levels border on toxic. Cathik's scales rippled with a mixture of amusement and disbelief. And yet you detect signs of civilization? Yes, Admiral. They call themselves humans. They possess basic spaceflight capabilities and primitive electromagnetic communications, but... Civil hesitated, double-checking her readings. They have no planetary shields, no atmospheric processors, and no climate control systems for their population centers. They simply exist in these conditions. The bridge crew exchanged looks of bewilderment. Their own worlds were carefully controlled environmental paradises, each city enclosed in protective domes, each climate regulated for optimal draconian comfort. The idea of a species not just surviving but building a civilization in such chaos seemed absurd. Show me their defensive capabilities, Cathik ordered, settling into his command chair. The main screen filled with images of Earth's military forces, tanks rolling across scorching deserts, ships sailing through turbulent seas, and aircraft flying through electrical storms. The Draconians watched in amazement as humans operated these machines in conditions that would have grounded any of their own vehicles. Their technology is primitive, Civil reported, but they display remarkable adaptability. They continue their activities regardless of weather conditions that would be considered catastrophic on our worlds. Admiral Cathik's laugh echoed across the bridge. Fascinating, but ultimately irrelevant. No species living in such harsh conditions could possibly resist our advanced technology. Prepare the invasion fleet. Over the next several hours, 300 Draconian warships emerged from hyperspace, their scaled hulls forming a deadly constellation around Earth. Each vessel carried thousands of troops equipped with advanced environmental suits designed to protect them from what they considered Earth's lethal atmosphere. Send the standard warning message, Cathik commanded. Let's see how these humans react to real power. The communication officer transmitted the Empire's demands in all Earth languages: surrender or face immediate destruction. Minutes passed. The human nations continued their regular activities. Their media broadcasts didn't interrupt their programs. Their militaries didn't scramble their forces. Admiral, the communication officer called out, confusion clear in his voice, we're receiving a response. It's strange. Display it, Cathik ordered, his tail now completely still. A simple text message appeared on the screen, welcome to Earth. Please proceed to these coordinates for diplomatic discussions. Location, Switzerland. Cathik's scales darkened with anger. They dare to give us instructions. They should be begging for mercy. Sir, Civil interrupted, studying her readings with growing concern, these coordinates, they're in a region of extreme terrain. The humans have built settlements in areas we would consider completely uninhabitable. It doesn't matter, Cathik declared, his pride overwhelming his caution. Prepare the first wave of ground forces. We'll show these primitives what real power looks like. As the invasion ships began their descent toward Earth, none of the Draconians noticed the slight smile on the face of the human representative broadcasting welcome messages from Switzerland. They had no way of knowing they had just made their first, and possibly last, tactical mistake. Deep within a mountain fortress in the Swiss Alps, General Sarah Chen stood at a window, watching the morning sun glint off the snow-covered peaks. Behind her, dozens of military personnel from different nations worked quietly at their stations, monitoring the Draconian fleet's every move. "They're following the coordinates exactly as planned," reported Captain Rodriguez, his eyes fixed on the main screen. 300 ships, just like our deep space probes predicted. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. For 30 years, humanity had prepared for this moment. Every satellite they launched, every seemingly failed space mission had been part of an elaborate deception. The Draconians thought they were scanning Earth, but Earth had been scanning them first. "Status of Operation Silent Thunder," she asked. "All nations are maintaining normal activities, ma'am. Television shows continue broadcasting, flights are on schedule, and social media is discussing the usual cat videos." Rodriguez paused, grinning. "The Draconians seem confused by our lack of panic." Sarah turned to face a wall of monitors showing real-time data from quantum sensors hidden throughout the solar system. 30 years of preparation comes down to this moment. "Are the weather control stations ready?" "Yes, General. All systems are operating within parameters. The storm is building exactly as planned." As the first Draconian shuttles began their descent through Earth's atmosphere, Sarah touched a small pendant around her neck, a gift from her mother, who had been one of the original architects of Earth's true defensive capabilities. "They think they're invading a primitive world," she murmured. "Time to show them exactly what humanity is capable of." The trap was set. The Draconians, in their proud warships and advanced environmental suits, were about to learn why humans didn't need protective domes to thrive on their death world. They were about to learn the hard way that sometimes, the most sophisticated technology isn't enough to conquer a species that has evolved to embrace chaos itself. And in the swirling snow of the Swiss Alps, humanity's first line of defense was already in motion, not with weapons or shields, but with something the Draconians had never considered: the power of Earth itself. The trap springs. Commander Varick's environmental suit sensors screamed warnings as his shuttle touched down on the snow-covered landing zone in the Swiss Alps. The Draconian elite force commander had led invasions on 30 different worlds, but something about this mission felt wrong. Through his viewport, he watched as 20 more shuttles landed in perfect formation, their scaled hulls gleaming against the pristine white landscape. "Final environmental readings," he asked his science officer. "Extremely unstable, sir. Temperature hovering around -5 degrees Celsius, atmospheric pressure at local normal but fluctuating, wind speeds variable. The environment is..." The officer hesitated, chaotic. Varick's tail twitched in irritation. Everything about this planet defied proper military protocol. The humans hadn't even attempted to prevent their landing. In fact, their only response to the invasion fleet had been that maddeningly polite invitation to this specific location. As the commander stepped onto the snow, his suit's gravitational stabilizers immediately began compensating for the uneven terrain. Around him, his elite troops spread out in standard formation, their advanced weapons ready. The mountain peaks loomed above them, disappearing into clouds that seemed unusually dark and heavy. "Welcome to Earth," a cheerful voice called out. A human female emerged from what appeared to be a simple structure near the landing zone. She wore what Varick's suit identified as basic cold weather gear: no force fields, no environmental controls, not even basic armor. "I am Dr. Emma Watson, Earth's diplomatic representative," she smiled, seemingly unbothered by the array of weapons pointed at her. "I trust your landing was comfortable." Varick's scales darkened with anger. "This is not a diplomatic mission. We are the advance force of the Draconian Empire. Your world will surrender or..." "Yes, yes," Emma interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. "Surrender or face destruction. We got your message. Would you like some hot chocolate while we discuss terms?" Before Varick could respond, his tactical officer's voice crackled through the comm. "Sir, we're detecting unusual energy readings from beneath the snow." "Scanning," the science officer added, "but these readings don't match any known." His voice cut off as every sensor in their suits simultaneously went dark. The storm hit without warning. One moment they were standing on a clear mountain plateau, the next they were engulfed in a whiteout of biblical proportions. Wind howled through their formation, driving snow and ice with such force that even their advanced stabilizers couldn't completely compensate. "Defensive positions," Varric ordered, but in the swirling white chaos, his troops could barely see each other. Their thermal imaging, designed for the vacuum of space, was useless against the rapidly shifting temperature patterns in the storm. Through the maelstrom, Varric glimpsed Dr. Watson still standing calmly, now accompanied by several other humans in simple winter gear. None of them seemed affected by the storm that was playing havoc with the Draconians' most advanced military technology. "Fascinating, isn't it?" Emma's voice came through clearly despite the howling wind. "Your environmental suits, designed to protect against the vacuum of space, never considered that sometimes the greatest challenge isn't the absence of atmosphere, but its presence in all its magnificent fury." Suddenly, the ground beneath them began to vibrate. Through the snow, Varric watched in horror as massive sections of the mountain began to move. What they had taken for natural rock formations were rising, revealing sophisticated technological installations that had been completely invisible to their scans. In orbit, Admiral Cathik received Varric's fragmented distress call. "Sir, we're losing contact with the ground forces. Their environmental systems are failing," and the transmission cut off in a burst of static. "Launch rescue shuttles," Cathik ordered, but as the vessels began their descent, they encountered impossible conditions. The storm system had grown, now encompassing the entire region in a swirling vortex of wind and snow that played havoc with their anti-gravity systems. "Admiral," his science officer called out, panic evident in his voice, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures activating throughout the mountain range. It's inside the mountains themselves." Before Cathik could respond, every screen on his bridge went dark. When they reactivated, a simple message appeared: "Welcome to Earth's defense network. Your systems have been compromised." In the mountain facility, now revealed beneath the snow, General Chen watched as the draconian ground forces were efficiently contained. Their environmental suits, unable to cope with the rapid temperature changes and electromagnetic interference, had effectively imprisoned them. "Status of the quantum infiltration?" she asked. Captain Rodriguez grinned. "Complete success, General. While they were focused on our primitive radio transmissions, our quantum network fully integrated with their ship systems. We have control of their entire fleet." On one of the massive screens, they watched as Dr. Watson approached the struggling Draconian commander. "Commander Varric, perhaps we should continue this discussion inside. Your suits don't seem to be handling our little snowstorm very well." As the Draconians were escorted into the facility, they found themselves in a vast complex that defied their understanding of human technological capabilities. Holographic displays lined the walls, showing real-time control of every system in their invasion fleet. Their proud armada of 300 ships had been captured without firing a single shot. "How?" Varric demanded, his scales pale with shock. "Your world showed no signs of this level of technology. Our scans showed exactly what we wanted them to show," a new voice answered. A young woman in a lab coat approached, introducing herself as Dr. Mi-sun Park, head of Earth's quantum computing division. "Those primitive radio signals you detected? Carrier waves for our quantum network. Every scan you performed of Earth helped us establish quantum entanglement with your systems. By the time you entered orbit, your ships were already part of our network." In orbit, Admiral Cathik watched helplessly as his ships responded to human commands. Even his personal override codes had no effect. The mighty Draconian invasion fleet, pride of the Empire, hung powerless above the planet they had come to conquer. "Sir," his science officer reported, "I've analyzed their technology. It's beyond anything in our database. Those simple satellites we detected. They're nodes in a planetary quantum defense grid. The failed space launches we observed. Deployment of their quantum network. We didn't find a primitive civilization, we found a Type 1.5 civilization that deliberately let us think they were vulnerable. In the mountain facility, General Chen approached the captured Draconian commander. Commander Varric, your troops will be treated well, and your ships will be returned to you intact. But first, we need to discuss the terms of the Draconian Empire's future relationship with Earth. The Empire will never, Varric began, but Chen cut him off. The Empire will do exactly what we negotiate here, Commander. Because right now, we're uploading our complete technological database to your fleet's computers. By the time your ships return home, your leaders will understand exactly what attempting to conquer Earth would mean. As if to emphasize her point, the facility's lights dimmed momentarily as a new hologram appeared, showing Earth's full defensive capabilities. The Draconians watched in stunned silence as they realized the true scope of their mistake. The seemingly primitive death world they had come to conquer had turned out to be something far more dangerous, a sophisticated civilization that had mastered both technology and nature itself. And somewhere in the Empire, a courier ship was already carrying the news that would shake Draconian civilization to its core, the news that they had just attempted to invade a world far more advanced than their own, a world that had beaten them not with superior firepower, but with superior intelligence and preparation. The battle for Earth was over before it had truly begun, and the galaxy's balance of power was about to change forever. Hidden depths. Deep within the Draconian Empire's capital ship, Eternal Dominion, Admiral Cathik stood before a quantum communication array, dreading the conversation he was about to have with the Imperial Council. Behind him, the Earth hung in space, deceptively peaceful against the backdrop of stars. His fleet of 300 warships remained in high orbit, now little more than extremely expensive decorations under human control. Connection established, his communication officer announced. The Council awaits. The holographic images of 12 elder Draconians materialized, their scales displaying various shades of agitation. High Counselor Nexus, her ancient scales a deep bronze, spoke first. Admiral Cathik, explain how you managed to lose control of an entire invasion fleet to a primitive species. Before Cathik could respond, a new voice entered the conversation. Perhaps I can help with that explanation. Dr. Emma Watson stepped into view, causing the council members to rear back in surprise. And I should mention, this quantum communication channel is now part of our network too. Nexus's scales darkened with rage. How dare you interfere with Imperial communications? The same way we dared to defend ourselves from an unprovoked invasion, Emma replied calmly. Now, shall we discuss the terms of a more productive relationship between our civilizations? Meanwhile, in a secret facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, General Chen watched the diplomatic exchange while receiving updates from her global command team. The facility, known as Deep Haven, made the Swiss mountain base look primitive by comparison. Here, surrounded by the crushing pressures of the ocean depths, humanity's most advanced research and development programs continued their work. Status report, she ordered, watching as holographic displays showed the positions of not just the Draconian fleet, but dozens of other potential threats throughout nearby space. Dr. Mi-sun Park approached, her tablet displaying complex quantum calculations. The integration of Draconian technology into our network is proceeding faster than expected. Their quantum processors are remarkably compatible with our systems, almost as if they were based on similar principles. Chen finished. That's because they are. Show them, Dr. Park. Mi-sun nodded and activated the facility's main holographic array. Above them, a complex three-dimensional image appeared, showing the underlying architecture of both human and Draconian quantum systems. The similarities were undeniable. We didn't just prepare for the Draconians specifically, Chen explained to her staff. We've been monitoring quantum echoes from advanced civilizations for decades. Every species that achieves quantum computing eventually creates ripples in the quantum fabric of spacetime. We've been studying these ripples, learning from them, and preparing for this moment. In the Swiss facility, Commander Varric was experiencing his own revelations. The humans had provided their Draconian guests with a carefully curated tour of Earth's defensive capabilities. But it was what they hadn't shown that troubled him most. These facilities, he said to his science officer, they're too perfect. Too precisely matched to our weaknesses. His tail twitched nervously. It's as if they've been studying us for years. Centuries, actually, a new voice interjected. A tall woman with silver hair entered the room, introducing herself as Dr. Yuki Tanaka, head of Earth's Xenoarchaeology Division. We've known about the Draconian Empire since we found the ruins of your previous attempt to colonize Earth, during what we call the Triassic period. The Draconians froze. The Triassic period was long before their recorded history, but there were myths, legends of a time when their species had reached for the stars and failed spectacularly. Impossible, Varric whispered, but Yuki was already projecting images of massive excavation sites where unmistakably Draconian technology had been unearthed from deep within Earth's crust. Your ancestors came to Earth thinking it was a death world too, Yuki explained. They failed to understand our planet's dynamic nature and paid the price. We found their ships, their technology, and most importantly, their records. Everything we needed to prepare for your eventual return. Back in Deep Haven, General Chen received an urgent alert. General, we're detecting quantum ripples similar to Draconian signatures, but different. Multiple sources, approaching from the outer solar system. Chen's expression hardened. It seems the Draconians' distress calls reached more than just their council. Dr. Park, how many ships? At least 1,000, General. Larger than the initial invasion fleet. But there's something else. Mi-sun's hands flew over her controls. These quantum signatures, they're not all Draconian. We're detecting at least 3 other species technologies in the approaching fleet. In orbit, Admiral Catholic received the same information and felt his scales pale. The consortium, he whispered. They're supposed to be theoretical, a myth of allied species working from the shadows of the Empire. Oh, they're quite real, Emma replied, still addressing both Catholic and the Council. We've been tracking their quantum signatures for years. Your invasion attempt wasn't just about conquering Earth, was it? You were testing our defenses for them. The Council members shifted uncomfortably. High Counselor Nexus's scales had taken on a distinctly grayish tinge. You don't understand what you're dealing with. The consortium, they've been manipulating species development throughout this sector of the galaxy for millennia. If they're coming because they know we've revealed ourselves, Chen said, stepping into the quantum communication. Your invasion forced our hand, made us show capabilities we would have preferred to keep hidden. But perhaps that's not entirely a bad thing. In Deep Haven, Chen activated a new set of controls. Throughout the solar system, hidden quantum nodes began to power up. What the Draconians had seen of Earth's defensive capabilities was barely the surface. The real power of humanity's technology lay in its integration with natural systems, not just Earth's weather, but the fundamental forces of spacetime itself. We've had centuries to prepare, Chen explained, not just studying your ancient technology, but developing our own path. We didn't try to control our environment like your civilization. We learned to work with it, to understand chaos and complexity at their most fundamental levels. And now, the holographic displays showed new data as the approaching consortium fleet drew closer. They weren't just coming to observe or intimidate, long-range scans showed their weapons were powered up and ready. They're not here to negotiate, Catholic realized. They're here to ensure this world doesn't upset the balance of power they've maintained for so long. No, Chen corrected him. They're here because they've just realized their carefully managed section of the galaxy contains something they never expected, a species that developed along an entirely different technological path. One they can't predict or control. In the Swiss facility, Varric watched as human personnel moved with practiced efficiency, preparing for what was coming. Their apparent primitive nature had been a carefully crafted illusion, hiding capabilities that even the consortium, with all its combined species knowledge, hadn't detected. "Commander," Dr. Tanaka addressed him, "your people face a choice now. The consortium will be here in less than 6 hours. You can either remain our prisoners." She smiled. "Or you can help us show them why attempting to control Earth is a very, very bad idea." Varric looked at his fellow Draconians, seeing in their eyes the same realization he had reached. They had come to this world thinking they were the superior civilization, only to discover they might have stumbled into a conflict far older and more complex than they had imagined. And as the consortium fleet approached, carrying the combined might of multiple advanced civilizations, humanity prepared to reveal that what they had shown the Draconians was only the beginning. The real secrets of Earth's power were about to be demonstrated on a scale that would change the galaxy forever. The storm breaks. The Deep Haven facility hummed with activity as Earth's defense forces prepared for the approaching consortium fleet. Through quantum-enhanced visualization systems, General Chen watched as over 1,000 alien ships emerged from the outer solar system, their combined technologies creating a breathtaking display of power. Analysis of consortium fleet composition, Dr. Park reported, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. "We're detecting 4 distinct species technologies: Draconian derivatives, Centaurian plasma drives, Proximan phase shields, and something else. Something ancient." Chen nodded, studying the tactical display. "The architects. The species that's been manipulating technological development across this sector of the galaxy. Show me their formation." The hologram expanded, revealing the consortium fleet structure. At its core were massive ships unlike anything seen before, their hulls seemingly made of living metal that shifted and flowed like liquid mercury. In orbit, Admiral Catholic watched the approaching armada with a mixture of awe and dread. "Those ships at the center," he said to Dr. Watson, who stood calmly on his bridge, "they're not supposed to exist. They're just stories told to scare children, the architects who supposedly guided our species' development." "Oh, they're quite real," Emma replied, checking data on her quantum tablet. "We've known about them since we decoded your ancestors' records. The question is, do they know about us?" As if in answer, a transmission cut through all communication channels. A figure appeared on screens throughout Earth's defense network, humanoid but wrong, its skin like flowing metal, its eyes pools of swirling energy. "Primitive species of Soul 3, the being's voice resonated at a frequency that made Draconian scales vibrate. You have exceeded your designated technological development parameters. Your quantum manipulation abilities were not part of the approved evolution path. Submit to immediate technological regression or face elimination." In Deep Haven, Chen smiled. "They still think we're operating on their technological framework. Dr. Park, show them why that's a mistake." Throughout the solar system, hidden quantum nodes activated. But unlike traditional defensive systems, these didn't generate energy shields or power-up weapons. Instead, they began to sing. In the Swiss facility, Commander Varric watched in confusion as every quantum-capable device in the human arsenal began emitting harmonics that seemed to resonate with spacetime itself. "What you're witnessing," Dr. Tanaka explained, "is the fundamental difference between your approach to technology and ours. You tried to impose order on chaos. We learned to speak its language." In orbit, the consortium fleet's advance suddenly halted. Their quantum systems, designed to impose rigid order on reality, encountered something they had never been programmed to handle: human technology that worked with natural chaos rather than against it. "Impossible," the architect's voice wavered. "Your technology, it operates on principles that violate our established paradigms." "That's because we didn't follow your rules," Emma replied. "We found our own path." "Dr. Park, would you care to demonstrate?" In Deep Haven, Misun activated Earth's true defense system. The quantum harmonics shifted, and suddenly the space around the consortium fleet came alive. Solar wind particles began to dance in complex patterns, magnetic fields twisted in ways that defied conventional physics, and the very fabric of spacetime rippled like water. "You see," Chen explained to the stunned architect, "while you were carefully guiding species to develop technology that imposed order on the universe, we were learning from Earth itself. Our planet isn't a death world, it's a masterclass in adapting to and working with chaos." The architect's image flickered as its ship's systems encountered patterns they couldn't process. "This is not the approved development path. Your species was meant to struggle against natural forces, to seek order and control." "That was your mistake," Emma said. "You assumed that fighting against nature was the only path to advancement. We chose to learn from it instead." Throughout the solar system, Earth's quantum network continued its song. Solar flares danced to its rhythm, asteroid fields moved in complex ballets, and the very vacuum of space hummed with possibilities that the consortium's rigid technology couldn't comprehend. "Last chance," Chen announced. "Withdraw your fleet, or we'll show you exactly what happens when you try to impose your order on our chaos." The architect's response was predictable: a full assault launch. 1,000 ships, representing the pinnacle of multiple civilizations' technological achievement, opened fire on Earth. Not a single shot reached its target. Earth's quantum harmonics didn't just defend, they transformed. Energy weapons diffused into harmless light shows. Plasma bolts spiraled off into complex fractal patterns. Matter-antimatter torpedoes dissolved into quantum uncertainty states. "Fascinating," Varric muttered, watching through the Swiss facility's quantum displays. "They're weapons, they're not being stopped. They're being invited to join a dance they were never designed to perform." In Deep Haven, Dr. Park's team monitored the quantum harmonics as they spread through the solar system. "General, the consortium's rigid programming is actually making this easier. Their attempts to impose order are giving our chaos mathematics more patterns to work with." The architect's image now showed clear signs of distress. "This is not possible. We have guided technological development for millennia. All species follow the path from chaos to order." "That's where you went wrong," Chen replied. "You never considered that chaos itself might be the greatest power source of all. Dr. Park, show them what Earth's weather can do in space." The quantum harmonics shifted again, and suddenly the solar wind itself began to form into Earth-like weather patterns around the consortium fleet. Ships found themselves buffeted by stellar hurricanes, caught in spacetime eddies that followed Earth's natural chaos mathematics. "By the way," Emma added, addressing the increasingly destabilized architect, "we should thank you. If you hadn't guided all these species down the same rigid technological path, they might have developed defenses against what we can do. Instead, you made them all vulnerable to the same fundamental flaw, the inability to work with natural chaos." The architect's image fragmented further. You were supposed to be primitive. Your world was designated as a Class 12 death world, too hostile for proper technological development." "No," Chen corrected. "Earth was the perfect training ground for a different kind of advancement. Every storm taught us about chaos theory. Every earthquake showed us how complex systems interact. Every living thing demonstrated how to thrive in constantly changing conditions. We didn't need your guidance, we had the greatest teacher of all." Throughout the solar system, the consortium fleet's rigid technology continued to fail against Earth's chaos-embracing systems. Ships designed to impose order on spacetime found themselves becoming part of the very patterns they were trying to fight against. And in the Swiss facility, Varric made a decision that would change the galaxy's future. "Dr. Tanaka," he said, "I believe the Draconian Empire would be very interested in learning about this alternative path of development." The battle for Earth's solar system was becoming something else entirely, not a clash of civilizations, but a fundamental shift in how species across the galaxy would view their relationship with the natural universe. And humanity, the supposedly primitive inhabitants of a death world, were about to become the teachers rather than the students. The Galactic Aftermath. The Draconian High Council chamber was unlike any conference room on Earth, a vast, circular space with walls that shifted between metallic silver and deep obsidian, reflecting the emotional state of those gathered. Holographic displays flickered with the devastating report from the Earth invasion mission, each projection more humiliating than the last. High Counselor Zara, her scales a mottled gray of anger and frustration, slammed her ceremonial staff against the polished floor. The sound echoed through the chamber, silencing the murmurs of shock and disbelief. "How is this possible?" she demanded, her voice a low, dangerous rumble that made even the most senior military commanders shift uncomfortably. Admiral Cathax stood at the center of the chamber, his once proud posture now diminished. The holographic recordings played again, 300 advanced warships, the pride of the Draconian Empire, completely neutralized by a species they had dismissed as primitive. The quantum entanglement network was the most shocking revelation. What the Draconians had perceived as simple satellite communications was, in reality, a complex planetary defense grid that had systematically dismantled their technological superiority. Dr. Meera Singh, the human representative now standing beside Cathax, seemed remarkably calm. Her presentation, translated into the complex linguistic patterns of the Draconian language, was clinical and precise. "Your technological superiority is an illusion," she explained, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. "You've developed technology that maximizes computational power, but you've failed to understand the fundamental principles of adaptive systems." The recordings showed how human systems had not just defended against the invasion but had actually integrated the Draconian technology. Every scan, every communication attempt had been a conduit for human infiltration. "Your quantum processors," Dr. Singh continued, "are like powerful engines without a sophisticated navigation system. We don't just compute, we interpret, adapt, and evolve." The High Council members exchanged worried glances. This was more than a failed invasion, this was a complete reassessment of their understanding of technological development. Captain Rodriguez, who had been instrumental in the Earth's defense strategy, stepped forward. "What you saw as weakness was our strength. Our planet's harsh conditions didn't just create survival, they created innovation." General Sarah Chen, watching from a secondary communication hub on Earth, understood the deeper implications. This wasn't just about repelling an invasion. This was a message to the galaxy: humanity was not to be underestimated. The Sahara Desert incident had been the final proof. The Special Forces team led by Commander Tilks, believing they could succeed where the main invasion force had failed, had been systematically neutralized by a combination of environmental manipulation and quantum-level technological interference. Temperature fluctuations, electromagnetic disruptions, and carefully placed quantum nodes had turned their advanced environmental suits into nothing more than expensive, malfunctioning shells. Humans had transformed an inhospitable desert into a technological trap more effective than any traditional weapon. "We are offering you a choice," Dr. Singh said, her tone becoming more serious. "Retreat and acknowledge our technological capabilities, or face a comprehensive exposure of your invasion attempt to the Galactic Confederation." The threat was clear. The Draconian Empire, known for its strict hierarchical structure and technological pride, would be humiliated on an interstellar scale. Their carefully maintained image of invincibility would crumble. High Counselor Zara's tail twitched, a sign of deep internal conflict. The diplomatic solution was clear, but the political ramifications within the Draconian Empire would be catastrophic. "And what are your terms?" she asked, her voice tight with restrained anger. Dr. Singh's smile was almost imperceptible. "Open diplomatic relations. Technology exchange. And a public acknowledgement that Earth is not a primitive world to be conquered." As the negotiations continued, deep within the mountain facility in Switzerland, a team of scientists was already analyzing the Draconian technology. Each piece was a puzzle, each system a potential breakthrough for human understanding. General Chen looked at the quantum network displays, understanding that this was more than a defensive victory. This was humanity's announcement to the galaxy: "We are here, we are different, and we are ready. The first contact had been unexpected. The outcome, even more so. Outside the mountain facility, the Swiss Alps stood as silent witnesses, their snow-covered peaks holding secrets of a defense network that had just changed the course of interstellar relations forever. Humanity's greatest weapon was not its technology, but its ability to turn challenges into opportunities, to see potential where others saw limitations. The galaxy would never be the same again. END